Hello, everyone. This is Howie. Welcome to the Howie Radio Live Show. As always, we're going to go into politics and we're going to go into culture. But before we do, I need to establish the most important event that's going to happen this year. And that it really will frame everything. And in order to understand that event, we need to stop and understand where we are. So, universe, Milky Way galaxy, solar system, planet Earth. Up to that point, we're all at the same page. Then, of course, what continent? North America for me, United States of America, Northeast, and New York. And we could do the same with the date. And if we start from the smallest and go out, date and time. So let's see. Right now, 11:46 a.m. It is the 20th of December, a Friday, in the year 2024. What is the most important event of this year and the most important event in the century and in world history? And it's Christmas. Everything loses significance if we don't understand the context that we're in. You know the saying, keep Christ in Christmas? This is my message for today. You don't have to try to keep Christ in Christmas. It's impossible to keep Christ out of Christmas. And why I'm saying that is the following. If you open up the paper in China today, or Russia, or Israel, or United States, or Europe, or Africa, the date is 2024. 2024 years ago, an event happened. An event in a very small town where a child was born. Everything is from that moment. And whether that year is exact or not is really not the point. The significance is it's based on the existence of an individual coming into the world. Nobody else can claim that. United Nations. Go to United Nations website today, and you'll see if there's news, there's stories, and the date will be 2024, the Gregorian calendar. The date everybody functions by, everybody in the streets, in the news, is 2024. And I don't think there's ever perhaps a more clear example than the Paris Olympics that just took place. So if you look at the Olympics, we have, Paris 2024, LA 2028. If you're not a believer in Christ, okay, if you don't believe he's God, if you don't even believe, you have to, I think it's very hard to say he didn't exist historically. He did. But if you don't see him as a significant person in religious terms or spiritual terms, I think you do have to see him as, monumental historical figure. So to keep Christ out of Christmas is, at this point, it's almost like, yes, of course you can, in the sense that you can just focus on gifts, but it's almost like it's not that they're doing anything to Christ. It's they're doing things you're doing it, I'm doing it, they're doing it to themselves. It's because, of course, a few days later, 1 week later, we have New Year's, and it's 2025. And of course, Trump will get inaugurated, and we'll go back into politics. But Advent is here. We're really gearing up. It's Friday, 20th. Historians can change the letters. I think this is very funny, right? BC becomes BCE before Common Era, before Christian Era. It doesn't matter. It's still based on his day. It's still picking that point. They're not picking a different point to start. They're just renaming it. It's silly. Or Anno Domini becoming Common Era. Well, Common Era for what? What defines the Common Era? Christian Era. What defines Christian Era? A guy named Jesus, the Christ. Okay, so no matter what happens, no matter what happens the next 5 days, no matter what happens in the news, no matter what happens on Real Clear Politics, and Elon Musk, and the Senate, and the debt ceiling, and boom, 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 boom. Roughly 2024 years ago, a man was born. He was not of noble birth. He was of biblical lineage, King David. But in his time, he wasn't a man. He wasn't born into a powerful family. He was not born into a country. He wasn't a Roman. He's nothing. The smallest you can be, right? And in Bethlehem, at this tiny little spot, in a manger, in a stable, whether it's a cave or a barn, no room at the inn. So this is where we We need to situate ourselves. And I think we also have to situate ourselves in how the liturgical calendar works. So you have your Jewish calendar, you have your Chinese calendar, you have the Gregorian calendar, which is what we operate in. And 2,000 years ago, this event takes place. Historians don't know when Jesus was born. There's no exact record. They think it was probably 4 BC, 2 BC, around that time of year. Probably, if they had to guess, September, maybe October. I love when people try to get stuff. Well, December, you're celebrating his birth. It's not even when he was born. You know what? This is where the poetic and symbolic beauty of faith comes in. The reason why the liturgical date for December 25th was picked has to do with the seasons. It has to do with the solstice, the winter solstice. It has to do with roughly around that time, December 21st. That part of December, that part of the year, that part of December is what? The darkest time of the year. 6 months earlier, June 21st or so, summer solstice. The brightest time of the year, the longest, the day is longest in June. The day is shortest in December. You may say, well, wouldn't you have Jesus? Wouldn't you put Jesus' birthday on the brightest day? Isn't he the brightest? Well, in June, his cousin, John the Baptist, is born. Remember, John the Baptist is Jesus' cousin, born of Elizabeth and Zechariah. Why do they pick a day for June for John the Baptist and a day in December for Jesus? Is because the beautiful line, it's not specifically for this line, but this line sums it up, this verse. He must increase, I must decrease. Jesus must increase. In other words, he was getting a lot of attention. Are you the Messiah? They were wondering if John the Baptist is the Messiah, the Christ. And, he's not worthy to even unstrap his sandals, which was like the lowest job you could. Like the servants would unstrap the sandals of guests that came to a wealthy person's house and wash their feet. So to unstrap the sandal was the lowest of the low. And he said, I'm not worthy to unstrap his sandals. He must increase. Jesus must come to the forefront, and I must drift away backstage. Okay. So John being born on the brightest, longest day, every moment after he's born, the day gets shorter. The amount of light is less. Jesus is born on the darkest day, the day with the shortest amount of sunlight. And every day after, the light increases. So the theme today, as we look at our politics, and we go to Real Clear Politics, and we'll go to Friday, and we'll survey the scene, is calendar, culture. Okay? You got your Chinese New Year, you have your Jewish New Year, you have your Jewish calendar, your Chinese calendar, you have other but those are for their specific holidays, their lunar cycles, lunar solar cycles. But the whole world is operating in this where we're 2024, the Olympics. Everybody went to the 2024 Olympics. Nobody went to the 5,785. No, 2024. If you are a believer in Jesus, hold on to this. Preach this. You don't have to try to keep Christ in Christmas. He is Christmas. It is his day. You can rename. You can deflect. It's his day. Nobody in history is more recognized, because every single day when you write down the date, when you look at your phone, you see his day, a reference to him in every culture, in every nation in the world. Every moment, I would say probably every individual, just about statistically, 99%, 99.9% of the world every day, unless you're very young or very old or incapacitated, you have a reference to the date. You can't keep Christ out of the world, and you don't need to try to keep Christ. So what is this? So if people are emphasizing gifts, And yes, you say Merry Christmas, you say Happy New Year, but you know how you keep them most in the forefront of the conversation? By being conscious of what I'm saying. When you're conscious of this reality, you change the room. We don't have to preach. St. Francis, right? Always preach the gospel, and if necessary, use words. We don't need to be proclaiming it all the time with our mouths. We need to proclaim it with our posture and our presence. So my mission today is a very simple one for myself, and then what I do is I want to share with you is that we acknowledge in our hearts and get this straight. We all probably, maybe you all knew this already. You say, okay, Howie, I know it. I'm reminding you. I'm reminding me. This is the reality of Christmas. From that, I'm going to share something with you. I used to do a lot of writing, and there was a place I used to go to mass, and I used to prefer, I used to prefer like certain churches that were, how can you say, less dramatic or less. They wouldn't have the characteristics that would draw you to them. It wasn't a full church. It wasn't a new church. No, it was like kind of the old rundown churches. If you live near a city, especially a city that used to be, and this could be all denominations. I'm Catholic, so I'll talk about that. There these neighborhoods that used to be very based on the immigration circles. The German neighborhood, or Irish neighborhood, or Italian neighborhood, or Chinese neighborhood, Korean, whatever it may be. And the neighborhoods that were from Catholic countries, particularly Irish, German. Well, German, of course, you have Protestant as well, but European nations mostly, Poland. You have these parishes, and at the time, you have to just assume in general these churches were built because they were needed. There was energy, there were people, there was demand. They built the schools and convents, and in many of these areas, because now it's the number of people that go to church each week is very, very low, and you have like these kind of, I call them tired parishes, right? They're just like they're barely keeping their doors open. The poor administrator, usually the priest, right, has to run it, and not that he's poor in the sense that they're taking care of, but I mean, like it's got to be hard in terms of enthusiasm when things are not, when most of the seats are empty. Let's put it that way, okay? But they keep going. So there was one church in it was in Jersey City, New Jersey. And I used to go there, and I just really liked it specifically for this reason, because there was a reality to it. There was like a bare bones, and I wrote something, and I want to share it with you, okay? And it's on my blog, and let me pull it up here. You see this little picture? I want to share. You see this picture up at the top? That's from a nativity set. I took this picture myself. I'm not much of a photographer or anything. But I don't know, I was playing around, and I took a piece of paper and I folded it down along the wall. So it's just a piece of paper that's curved. And this little figure is one of the Magi, one of the three kings. It was from a nativity when I was a little boy, and I loved it. And my mother, after, I guess it's had it 40, 50 years, probably 50 years. This is, maybe 40, it's about 10 years ago this photo was taken, I guess, so roughly, and maybe 15 years ago. And so anyway, this nativity was when I was a child, small. And I remember playing with them. You go on the tree and you play and move them around. I had a little shelf like in the stable, and you could put the lambs, the lamb in there, and the sheep, and the cow, and the baby Jesus. And my mother was throwing it out. She was getting a new one. I was like, you can't throw it out. So I took it, and I got the rest of the pieces around somewhere. I'm not sure. But this one I had on my shelf, and it reminded me, and I said, that's who, I'm not a king, but it's the nature of this search. I'm certainly not a king, but the search of the philosopher, and that's what they were. They were philosophers, astronomers. They were searching for the sign. The king is coming, and it wasn't just about science. It was about knowledge, and so here they come in that shadow. And I took that picture, and I just really like it. I think it's neat. Okay. See what I wrote. 2017. Wow. It's a long time ago. I'm going to read. I appreciate you listening, and maybe it'll stir something up. The yet empty stable. There's a little stable not too far from here. It sits in a church that has seen better days. The parish is poor, and the people seem to disappear. But a few persistent peasants won't stay away. I love it there. The priest is wonderfully uncertain. He is afraid of God. He instinctively bows his head at the mention of the name. He knows how little he is in front of the great star. I imagine he was involved in setting the stable. It is a good size on the relative little stable scale. It is surrounded by evergreen branches, probably snipped from the few Douglas firs placed around the altar and yet to be trimmed. The stable itself is composed of wood. A little wooden railing crosses half the front. A single string of clear lights threads through the branches laid upon the miniature roof. They are yet to be lit. I love it there. I kneel before the empty scene. For as of yet, not a creature or prop is present. Not an ox or a goat, not a piece of hay or plank of fencing, not even a feeding trough that is to be turned into a crib. No visible sign of Joseph and Mary, not a distant hee-haw of a very tired donkey. I wonder if I could get involved. Perhaps I could slip into the scene. There's a darkened corner on the lower left, in the back, against the wall. I could hide myself within the stable before anyone else arrives. I don't think they would mind. I'd only be there to adore, to pay homage to the newborn king. I might even help keep the animals in line. Yes, a stagehand. That's what I can be. I know there's no curtain to pull. That's to be torn in a much later scene. But to watch the incarnation unfold from within, that's what I dream. To see each player take his or her place. To see the great light locate the babe. To watch the kings and shepherds stumble onto the scene. Hark! To hear the herald angels sing. Oh, the joy of being a simple farmhand, of being in the right place at always the right time. Of course, though, I wouldn't be alone. In that darkened corner, also awaiting the entire affair, there are many others. Most I don't know by name. Too many, in fact, to even count. But a few I know for sure. For certain, present are those few persistent peasants who won't stay away. And of course, there's that wonderful anonymous parish priest, the one who helped set into place this yet empty but very expectant stable, the one whose fear of God is so clearly the beginning of wisdom. Oh, Thank you for listening to that. It brings back a lot of memories, and it brings forward a prayer, a prayer of life, of the great reminder of how blessed we are, how grateful we should be, how generous this gift that we don't deserve, propels us to give, to empty ourselves out for others. Do we? Do I? No, not enough. Not enough. There's never enough that could be done. There's never a moment that can be lived that will fully process what God does for us every day. He breathes us into existence. If he stops thinking about us, we no longer exist. His thought is an emanation of our existence, of our being. And he projected himself upon the scene. And that's the thing. The nativity, came by. St. Francis had a living nativity back in Assisi, and that's how the tradition started. He reenacted it. He was really a troubadour actor. That's a part of Francis I love. He's a lot more stern than I think people think. He wasn't always laughing and singing. I think he had both sides of his personalities, because when you read his letters, they're serious. We don't have many writings from St. Francis of Assisi, but the ones we do are we have some poems, and then we have some letters or instructions, and they're real deal. They're straight. And I think the gift of the nativity being the birth of Christ, but the nativity scene, is that we can become kids. I was at Mass this morning, and I went to a Mass that is involved with a school, and it was filled with children. And the one side part where some additional pews are with a lot of family members with younger children that aren't old enough to be in the school, infants and toddlers. And I mean, I couldn't get the smile off my face. Just the beauty of new life, the beauty of the smiles, the mother holds the child and the head's up here and they're looking behind. And if you're behind, they're looking at you. And those eyes, the clarity, the wonder, the Garden of Eden. They're in the garden. There's no self-consciousness. There's none of it gets in the way. It's just they're just living. They want mama, they grab mama. Right? They don't think about what it looks like if they want mom. They want mama, they grab mama. They want to look at somebody, they look. They want to sleep, they sleep. They want to laugh, they laugh. If they want to try to run, whatever. They try to run away and the mother won't let them. But it's just, they're alive and they're pure and they're innocent. And that's why the shepherds were the first to announce to the shepherds. First they were social outcasts. And, a lot of times they maybe their sheep carried disease, or they had disease and they smelled and they were dirty because they didn't shower and they were very uneducated. But that's who comes with the king. The kings come from one direction and the shepherds come from the other to adore that same innocent child. I saw Christ this morning. I saw several Christ this morning. I saw hundreds of Christ this morning. I'm looking at you and I see a Christ. And I look in the mirror. Do I see a Christ? I have to see a Christ. I'm a Christ and you're a Christ. A. The letter A. Christ. 2024 years ago, the Christ, THE, was born. That's what we need to meditate on. There's so much to talk about. It's really great, Get in that stable. You see that stable? Get in there. Get in there. Get in that scene. Right? Not to take the light. Not to become the star. No. To be the star in this case is the most humble actor you can be. You know, the idea of like the cows and the ox and the cow and the breathing on the child to keep. Think about that image of the nostrils, the warmth of the animal, keeping the creator of the animals is now lying completely vulnerable with the beast of burden, who breathe on him to keep. He breathes life into us, right? Inspiration, life, spirit, breath, and Jesus breathed on them, and they received the Holy Spirit. He breathed on them. So all this, that's why Francis is important. It's okay to become animated and to move and to act, to play the part, not as a fake, but in a way of manifesting yourself into the scene. Because when we go into the scene and we come back out, we're transformed and we're changed. Christ is Christmas. Christ is always in Christmas. He can't be removed. Like all things in politics, and culture, don't get stuck in the details. It's good if you want to put that sticker on your car, keep Christ in Christmas, and you want to say Merry Christmas to make a point. It's awesome. But it's deeper. It's so much deeper. Be a Christ. Get in the scene. In the core of your being, understand that everything we discuss in terms of the culture and politics and the economy is all based on a world created by God in a time that he breathed, and a time marked by his birth date. His fingerprints are everywhere.